Hello and welcome to my channel. My channel is dedicated to exposing Watchtower lies, deception and cover-ups. My name is Marcy and I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses for over 30 years. I served as a regular pioneer for 10 of those years. I was first contacted in the door-to-door ministry in 1987 and I finally left the organisation in 2022. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Watchtower Society's first president. No, I'm not talking about Charles Taze Russell because he was not the first president of the Watchtower Society. It was Barbara Anderson, the lady who works at the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, and who discovered when she was going through some files that Charles Taze Russell was not the first president of the Watchtower Society. And she was one of the main writers for the Watchtower, a researcher and a writer. And she was responsible for the a work on healing the wounds of child abuse, which came out in the 1980s, or was it 1990s, I'm not sure when it came out. But when she found out that what was really going on and that the Watchtower was covering up things and the governing body refused to acknowledge or do anything, she ended up leaving. And of course she would be disfellowshipped to keep her anybody from finding out what was going on. But she was the first person to find out about this person called William Henry Conley, who happened to be the first president of the Watchtower Society. So I thought it might be interesting to tell you a little bit about this first president, William Henry Conley. So William was born on the 11th of June, 1840. He was born into a wealthy family, and when he grew up, he was co-owner of the Ritter Conley Company, which was a provider of steel and manufactured goods to the railroad and mining industries. William was also director and stockholder of the Third National Bank of Allegheny, Pennsylvania. So you can see the kind of man this was. Financially, he was very, very wealthy. Now, William was married to a lady called Sarah Schaefer, and Sarah also came from a very wealthy background. But William and Sarah were a very religious couple, and they provided organisational and financial help to religious institutions, Christian institutions in the United States of America. William and Sarah had prayer meetings and events at their home. And it seems that William and Sarah became acquainted with Charles Taze Russell and his father at the Advent Christian Church where they attended. And it was here where they heard the preaching of Second Adventist Jonas Wendell, George Stetson and George Stowes. And soon after, a Bible study group was started. Now, William and Sarah had Bible study groups and meetings at their home. But when this Bible study group was started, it consisted of 5 people, and these 5 people were William Conley and his wife Sarah, Joseph Russell, the father of Charles Taze, Margaret Russell, the sister of Charles Taze Russell, and Charles Taze Russell himself. Now, according to an early issue of Zion's Watchtower, the memorial of Christ's death was held at the home of the Conleys. And they are mentioned in the Watchtower as being early Bible students. The fact that they held their meetings at their home is reflected in the name that this house mission was given. It was known as Bethel, or the house of God. So, William Conley became the first president of the Watchtower Society. William was the president. The vice president was Charles Taze Russell's father, Joseph. And Charles Taze Russell occupied the role of secretary and treasurer. And this was the way it was until 1884. In 1884, the Watchtower Society became a corporation. I discussed this in one of my other videos when I showed you the badges that said that it was a corporation. It became a business, a publishing business. And so it was William Henry Conley who stumped up $3,500 of the $5,000 startup fee costs, with the other contributors being Charles Taze Russell's father Joseph, who put up $1,000, and that left the remaining $500, which was paid by Charles Taze Russell himself. Now, this is completely different to what we are told in the Watchtower's version of events, as told in the Faith in Action video part 1, where we see Charles Taze Russell stumbling into a dusty hole and hearing the preaching of Jonas Wendell. He then gets his dusty Bible off the shelf, according to David Splain, and he starts researching. And this leads to him deciding to sell his clothing stores and donate all his money to the Watchtower. Well, it's a lovely story, but none of it's true. Because we know that it was William Conley who funded the first year of the Watchtower Society. In the first year, William Conley stumped up $40,000. It's a lot of money now, but imagine the amount of money it was back in those days. They produced a book in the first year, Food for Thinking Christians. Thousands of copies were given away free, as was other literature, all paid for, not by Charles Russell and his business, but paid for by William Conley. Now, it seems to be that William and Sarah Conley at some point parted company with Charles Taze Russell and his Watchtower. And what I discovered was that William and Sarah could not accept the pyramid teachings and beliefs of Charles Taze Russell, who believed that the Pyramid of Giza was the Bible in stone, and that the measurements of its passages were what led to the dates of 1914 being the time of Armageddon. It was believed then. It was not believed that Jesus Christ returned then, because according to Russell, he believed that Jesus returned in the late 1870s. And so this date was changed and fiddled around with to make it so that it was Jesus's return in 1914. But the original teaching was that Armageddon was coming in 1914. And it was this, and coupled with this pyramid belief, that William Conley and his wife just couldn't go along with. So they cut their losses and returned to a church. And after they left, in the true Watchtower fashion, they were erased from all mention in the Watchtower publications. They were never mentioned again. And it was completely buried that William Conley was the first president. So William and Sarah continued in their religious beliefs, helping other people. They cut their losses. And when William Conley died, he left his fortune to his wife Sarah, and she passed away in 1901, leaving a fortune in today's equivalent value of $16 million, which she left to the Wiley Church, which they attended. So it seems that right from the beginning, there are people who have given up a great deal to follow when they've found out that certain things aren't right. You know, and I will put in the description box below the Freddie Franz video, where Freddie Franz tells that they believed in the Pyramid of Giza was the Bible in stone. So for anybody who says, oh no, I don't think they did believe that, modern day Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe that they believe those things. Yes, they did believe those things. When you've got the president, the third president, or the fourth president, because the first president was Conley, the second was Russell, the third was Rutherford, and the fourth was Frederick Franz. And Frederick Franz himself tells that is what they did believe. So my question is, because I can't find any scriptures in the Bible to suggest that the Pyramid of Giza has anything to do with the Bible and with the prophecies of the Bible. And neither could William and Sarah, and that is why they left. So, what about Charles Taze Russell's wife? As I said, we're going to mention Maria Russell. I'm going to put in the description below my video a link to a video about Maria Russell, because as I said before, I can't see the point in making a video about something that someone else has done a job better than me. So if you want to understand the court case and all the ins and outs of what happened with Pastor Russell and his wife, you can watch that video. But here's a little bit of information about Maria Russell. Maria was born Maria Frances Ackley on the 10th of April 1850, and she was born into a wealthy family. She was one of 7 children, but 3 of her siblings died before she was born. And she was particularly close to a younger sister, Emma, who was born on the 6th of October 1854. Now, Maria Ackley married Charles Taze Russell on the 13th of March 1879. She married him just 4 months before the first Zion's Watchtower rolled off the press. So, going back to the original Bible study class, William Conley, Sarah Conley, Joseph Russell, Margaret Russell, Russell's sister, and Charles Taze Russell, Maria wasn't there because he hadn't even met her then. He met and married Maria in a very, very short time. And just 4 months in to the marriage is when she began writing the Watchtower magazine, because Maria was a talented writer. She was very active in getting the movement off the ground and quite a force to be reckoned with. And so she says that she wrote herself the first 4 volumes of Studies in the Scriptures, which is attested to Russell. But the Watchtower was attested to Russell's writings when it was actually his wife Maria. And when Maria wanted more of a share, Charles Taze Russell didn't want it. He wanted rid of his wife. He told her he wanted to separate from her. And as the marriage broke down, he was fraternising with their living lodger, the 19-year-old Rose Ball. And Maria Russell accused him of immoral conduct. She never said he committed adultery with her, but she said that they would be kissing and cuddling, and he found them several times in her bedroom with the door locked. And she heard him refer to her as his wife. And when she said, "Well, I'm not your wife," he said, "Well, I call you daughter," because a daughter has all the privileges, almost as a wife. And this was brought out in the court case that went on, and it was in all the newspapers. It was a huge scandal. And so, to bring in damage limitation, the Watchtower lawyer was brought in to smooth things over. And that was J.F. Rutherford, who was a lawyer for the Watchtower Society at that time. So there's all these things going on. And also, something that not a lot of people know is that Maria Russell's sister, Emma, she married Charles Taze Russell's father. And so they were all involved in this early Watchtower. There was Charles Taze Russell, his father, Joseph Russell, his sister, Margaret Russell, and his sister-in-law, mother-in-law, Emma Russell. So none of this has ever been brought out in the Watchtower or in the Faith in Action videos. Well, it paints a rosy picture, but we're not told the facts. But that's no surprise, is it? Because we are not told the facts today. The Watchtower right from the start has been very deceptive about its history. And I just thought it would be interesting to bring out, as we are told, that it was Charles Russell's money. And although Charles Russell was wealthy, he didn't have the money to do the things he did. And after the departure of William Conley, you'd be surprised at where the money came from next, because it didn't come from him. But that's a subject for another video. But I would say that looking at the history of the organisation shows the foundation on what it was built. We are told that Jesus Christ came and looked at all these societies and religions and chose the Watchtower because it was dispensing spiritual food at the time. Well, it was dispensing spiritual food at the time, but it was teaching that the Pyramid of Giza was the Bible in stone. And are we to believe that Jesus Christ came and looked and chose this organisation to be in charge of all his belongings? I think not. And it was Maria Russell who invented the faithful and discreet slave story. And this was opposed by Charles Taze Russell at first. It's interesting that he agreed with it in the end, and right to this day, we are told that they are the faithful and discreet slave. A group, or a term, or a teaching that was introduced by Maria Russell, Charles Taze Russell's wife. She's also been erased from the Watchtower and any mention of her. She was mentioned in that book that I showed you, that she was Secretary Treasurer, because she became the Treasurer for the Watchtower Society when Charles Taze Russell replaced William Conley. And Charles Taze Russell and his wife and his father and his sister were all involved. They were probably the shareholders besides our man, because we're not told who the other shareholders were. But we can see that the Russells like to keep it in the family. So it's highly likely that it was his other family members that were on the board, making sure that the money stayed in the family where it needed to be. I want to thank you for watching this video. I think it's interesting to look at the history of the Watchtower Society, because as Jesus said, a good tree can't produce bad fruit. And when you look at the Watchtower's early history, that they believed in this pyramid, and there was all the scandals with Charles Russell and his affair with Rose Bowl being in the newspapers, and that it was Rutherford was fetched in to smooth it all over and to keep people on board. And Jesus did not choose this organisation because he did not get authority in 1914. Because at Matthew 28, he told his disciples, all authority has been given me in heaven and on earth. He received the authority back in the day of the disciples. He didn't have to wait till 1914 to come in kingdom power. This was made up by the Watchtower. And not only them that believed it, there was the second Adventists who believed it and taught it. So it is important to bring these things out. I know some people will be thinking, what's she banging on about ancient history for? But as I've said, an organisation is only as good as its foundation. And we can see that the foundation of this organisation is rotten, and rotten to the core. So I want to thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. And until the next time, I'll say bye.